Good evening. This is Dante Steele on Volt News Network. And these are your top stories tonight. Senate Democrats and Republicans just announced a short-term funding deal tonight that would fund the government for 6 weeks and provide additional funding for Ukraine and domestic disaster relief. It still needs to go through the full Senate process and receive a final vote before heading to the House. However, the future of the funding deal is unclear in the House. Speaker Kevin McCarthy said Ukraine funding should come in a separate supplemental request, not be attached to a stopgap bill. House Republicans have punted on a short-term solution and are instead focusing on long-term appropriations bills. McCarthy faces pressure from the Conservative Freedom Caucus, and relying on Democratic votes could lead to a challenge to remove him as Speaker. What this means is that some House Republicans are taking a hard line and still proposing that the bills are not fair to their party, and that a shutdown is still on the table, even with 4 prospective plans in place to fund the government. The reasoning for this seems to be the funding of Ukraine, which certain Republicans do not support. Whether for good or for bad, President Joe Biden made history today by becoming the first sitting U.S. president to join picket lines of an active labor strike. Biden traveled to Metro Detroit to meet with auto workers who were striking at the big 3 automakers, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. Upon arriving in Detroit, Biden joined members of the United Auto Workers UAW union who were picketing in Wayne County. As of Biden's visit, around 18,000 UAW members across the country were striking against the automakers after contract negotiations failed. The UAW and companies were unable to reach an agreement by the September 14th deadline. During his visit, Biden expressed support for the striking workers. Ford has stated that if they gave in to the workers' demands, the company would go bankrupt, a big mess. We have more stories, but they are developing, such as Trump being found liable for fraud in a New York court, and more evidence being brought forward in the Biden crime cases. We will keep you informed right here on Volt News Network. Good night.